in a small business think tank group. There's about 30 different businesses in it, and this strategy came up, and I was blown away at how many businesses, especially in the service industry, that went down this path and succeeded with it. And so then I started doing it, and it just grew year after year after year. So in short, let me tell you where we're at is budgeting season starts taking place for corporate America and even small businesses from starting typically in September and ending in November. They are budgeting for the following year, and they're trying to get good information to put into their budget. The biggest struggle they have is getting that good information. And so the best thing about commercial is that you're building a relationships with these businesses. So you're coming in saying, "Hey, I'm going to offer you something. I'm going to help you out if you need it by giving you numbers for your budget." And so that's the overall strategy on it. Now let's start going through the slides here. One of the main things you need to focus on is you need to do some research and determine what industries that you want to focus on this year. Each industry has its own pluses and minuses, but you need to be doing the research because every one of our territories that's on this call, we have different industries that are in our territories. There are some territories that are primarily residential houses, but there's all these supporting businesses that support residential houses, such as daycares and doctor's offices and banks, right? And churches. Oh my gosh, if there's a residential area, there's always a bunch of churches there. So those are the types of industries you need to think about. First of all, is what industries do you have in your area? So what we've done here is we just listed out some examples of industries, but there's tons more than this. I just kind of gave you the top ones that you can pick from, but there's way more than this. Next slide. So be strategic when you're going down the commercial world. You're starting out at it, or you've been at it for a little while. Be really strategic on what industries you're going to go after. I don't highly recommend just the dartboard approach where you just throw it and see what hits. Right? Be a little more strategic about which ones you're going to go after. Like we talked about, you do research in your territory to find out what are some primary businesses that are there that would be a good fit for you. But start with your strengths, right? Industries that you know you can succeed at. If you're phase one or phase two in your business, you're a year or two into it, I wouldn't be going out and going after large apartment complexes, right? You're going to want to work your way up to it. Don't be afraid of commercial work. So let's take a dentist office. A dentist office is just like a big house. You can do a big house, you can do a big dentist office. So start out with what you know you can succeed at. So select industries that you know would work for you. If you have been in business for quite a while, you got several crews, right? You know you can succeed at that. Well, then that's whenever you can start selecting industries like retirement villages, HOAs, apartment complexes. Also, not only the success of what you can deliver, think about the success of industries that you may have already contacts with. If you know people in the restaurant industry, maybe that's the industry you want to go after. Because once you land one or two restaurants and you do the work, it's a really small world in the restaurant industry and they talk to each other. All of a sudden, you're picking up other leads. So start with your strengths of what you can deliver and strengths of where you can network at. Once you've selected the industries that you're going to specialize in, become the subject matter expert for that industry. Learn about what products they're going to need. I'll give you an example. The restaurant industry, right? If you're going to go down the work and do work in the restaurant world, there are special paint products you're going to need to use in the restaurant world. For an example, it's got to have low VOC, right? Low smell. Restaurants don't want their patrons coming in and getting stoned on lacquer or getting headaches from paint smells, right? So you got to know the products you're going to need, learn those products, become a specialist in that, learn the language of the industry you're in. Like the restaurant industry, there's back of house, there's front of house, there's side of house, there's all these different language terminologies. Learn that so when you're talking with them, to understand their job, you're actually understanding their needs. Next is I'm going to go old school on this because I am an old man, but you got to build yourself a portfolio. It works, right? Get an old picture album. You're already taking pictures of your jobs that you're putting out on social media and Facebook and web pages and all that kind of bit. Print those pictures out, do it old school, and build a portfolio book, a picture album. Have all your restaurant pictures together, have all your apartment pictures together, build that book and have some examples in there, and then get recommendations, names, and numbers, and put that in that book. Here's the reason why. If you're sitting in front of a decision maker, you do not want to pull up a picture on your phone and stick it in their face. Say, hey, look what we did here. Look what we did there. It goes way better if you give them a book for them to look through. So I know that's old school, but it really does pay off because when you're in front of that decision maker, you gotta represent yourself to be business to business professional as possible. Next slide. Okay, let's talk commercial sales strategy. The only thing that residential painting and commercial painting have in common is that you both use paint. That's about it. When it comes down to the sales strategy of commercial, it's way different than residential. Residential is decisions are made primarily based upon emotions. Someone's home, that is their pride and joy. The colors they're picking is because that's what they like emotionally, right? When you come in, they're inviting you into their house. You're giving them the whole sales approach, right? They're going to pick you based upon emotions. Commercial is not that way. Commercial is not emotional driven. It's factual driven. It's a transaction. So commercial is a long-term relationship with the customer. Your residential customers, they may love you. You paint the outside of their house. Well, they're not going to call you for another 10 years until they need the house painted again. Commercial, it could be a year after year after year. It's all about the relationship with that customer. So one of the first things you got to do is create your own CRM. Now, I know David is pushing for us to bring in a CRM in 2025, but between now and then, get ahead of the game. You need to create your own contact database. That's a big word for saying get yourself an Excel spreadsheet and start writing down the data. The contact information, the business name, phone number, email, all the information you need, and then start logging every time you talk to them. Because on the commercial side, you're building that relationship, you got to stay in front of them. So start with that database and start collecting that data. This gets a little more trickier, and this is not as easy to do, but as much as possible, try to deal only with the decision maker. So if there is a facilities manager and there is a facilities director, try to get in front of that facilities director because that's the one that's going to be making this decision. Hey, yeah, go ahead, Tim.
I was going to say, since the new software isn't going to have a CRM, even though it's priced where it should have one, a good inexpensive option is called a less annoying CRM. It's about $15 a month. So it's something that I've been looking into, probably going to adopt. But for people on the call, something to look into. Hopefully the CRM for On Verity comes a lot faster than not. So because that's what we charge for.
Was that name really Less Annoying CRM? That's the name of it? Oh, that's a clever name. Okay, so either buy a CRM like the Less Annoying CRM at $15 a month, or create an Excel spreadsheet, but something where you can start logging all your contact. Once you figure out who the decision maker is, learn about that decision maker. An easy way of doing that is LinkedIn, right? Or Facebook or social media, and then find out about those customer needs. Because you got to remember, this is a B2B. I know we all hear that term a lot, but that B2B is a business to business. This is a transaction. It's not emotional based. What you got to understand when you're talking to these owners, these business owners, that both parties are trying to both parties are trying to make a decision based upon money. You're trying to get to sell a job to make money. They're trying to either save money by hiring you, or they are willing to pay the money to improve their business to make more money. So it's all transactional based. You got to understand that customer's needs from a business transaction. We all on this call understand what cash flow is. We all understand what it means whenever you're trying to figure out how to pay bills. Well, guess what? A lot of these businesses are in that same boat, right? They understand cash flow. So when they come up with payment terms of net 30, that's common in the commercial world. That's just something to understand about this business transaction is it's common for net 30. That's something you got to get used to. Then understand that that customer has employees and their own customers. So when you're talking to them about a job, they're saying, "Hey, we're looking at we want to get a quote to paint the exterior next year," right? In the commercial world, there's this term called conditions, right? Conditions is just a term that can be used for anything. But one thing it is used for is understanding how you're going to work around this client's employees and this client's customers. So whenever you're pricing it and you're looking at it, keep that in consideration because a project that you could typically do in 1 week now may take 2 weeks. You're having to work around that person's employees and customers. Okay, next slide. So the sales approach, pretty straightforward. Go through your desk drawer, the bottom of your car, and your wallets and purses and find every business card you've collected at every networking group you've been in for the last 3 or 4 years. That right there is a start. You grab those, you enter those into your CRM or into that Excel spreadsheet, and that's going to be the first people you're going to be trying to reach out to because you've already got some type of connection with them because you've met them. Secondly, is what Alia talked about is you could buy the data from this fall commercial campaign. That's 25,000 businesses that you got a head start on that you now can be reach out to individually. Another thing is if you don't want to buy that commercial campaign data is the industries that you've decided you're going to go down, just do some data mining, which is very easy to do. Data mining is a fancy word for saying Google or look on LinkedIn. And with those businesses, you'll find out who to contact. Or you can pick an area and go nuclear. I did that once. I took a zip code. I got every business that was just within that zip code, and I started going door to door. Okay, next. Okay, so let's talk about the corporate budgeting season. I know a lot of you guys probably already know this data, but I want to share this in case we have people on here that don't understand it. 72% of all businesses do a yearly budget. Budgeting seasons typically starts between September and ends in November. Decisions are usually made in December. There are two types of budgets being created. One of them is operational budgets. That could be a good play for you because operational budgets are usually there's going to be projects that have to do with maintenance. They're usually $5,000 and less. If you can pick up 3 or 4 small projects that are under operational budget each year, that adds up to one big one. Another budget that they will be creating, that almost every business is creating, is a CapEx budget. That stands for capital expenditure. Those are typically large projects. It's 5,000 and above. These can be $40,000, $50,000 projects. These are typically projects they're going to want the whole exterior repainted. They're renovating the inside, the whole inside, right? They're tearing out walls. These are the larger projects. So you can have a play on either one of these budgets. Typically, once the budgets are done, then they will go over to the owner, board of directors, or the finance committee for approval. These are your decision makers. If you do quotes, if you go to a customer and say, I know you're doing budgeting, and you're in the middle of budgeting season, is there any budgets you need from me? And they say, yeah, and you write them 3 or 4 budgets, let's say. Then you reach out to them in December and January and find out none of the budgets got approved. I promise that's not a waste of time. Don't get frustrated because next year at the same time in September, they're going to be doing budgeting again. You're going to call them next September and say, hey, those projects I quoted for you last year that didn't get approved, do you need me to update the numbers? You're going to look like a flipping hero. They love that. Now, you've reached out to them to say, hey, we need to update these numbers because they literally those projects still need to be done. Matter of fact, they probably need to be done more now because the year's gone by. More damage has been done. The paint's faded more. So don't get frustrated if the projects you quote this year on the commercial side do not get approved. Next year, you got way higher odds. Okay, next slide. So now that you've got the list of, you've bought the list from Alley, or you've collected all your business cards, or you've done your picture industries, and you did your data mining. Now it's time for you to start communicating with them. Now is the time. We're a little bit late, actually. We're already in the middle of September, so you're running out of time. Right now is the time to either get face to face, which is the best way to do it, or if phone, email, or you could, if you know them well from maybe a networking group, you could text or use social media. But now's the time to do the very, very simple. Hey, I know it's in budgeting season. Is there anything I can do for you? They're going to love you for that. And remember, you're trying to get to the decision maker. And because this is a business to business, you're there not to sell them something, you're there to solve a problem for them. Next slide. Here's a couple examples. This one's for you, Larry. Hello, Mr. Kuhn. This is Greg with 5 Star Painting. I'm sure that you'll be starting your budgeting process for 2025 soon. I'm just calling to let you know I'd be more than happy to help you with any painting quotes you may need for your planning. Now, you see, that's warm calling. There's nothing aggressive about that. That's a business to business solve right there. You're solving a problem for them. Another approach, I use this one quite a bit. This one's for Mr. Nungasser. Hello, Mr. Nungasser. I'm Greg with 5 Star Painting. We are expanding our commercial business and understand that this is a time of year businesses start thinking about 2025. If you're thinking about any repainting in the future, I'd be more than happy to provide you a detailed quote for your planning purposes. So you got to see there's nothing aggressive about this. You're actually there trying to help them out. You're trying to help them out with their budgeting. You're trying to help them out with their planning. And even if they say no, that they don't need you this year, it's all good. Here's an idea that I did, and it seemed to work well. And I'm a real cheapskate. But anyway, all the face-to-face conversations I had during this time of year, whenever I would just cold call or warm call, I had paper coffee cups made with my logo and phone number on it. I filled it with candy from the Dollar General store, and I stuck my business card in it. I probably had less than $1 in each one of those. So when I'd walk into that office, that dentist office or that bank or whatever it is, and I would give my little spiel. If they said yes, that they did need quotes, great. I gave them quotes. If they said no, I don't need quotes, I said, hey, I appreciate your time. If you do need me, let me know. And by the way, here, and you give them that candy, that little coffee cup, that candy in your business card. It will go a long ways. Next slide. So you got in front of them. Now you got to ask the right questions. Ask them when the quote is due. And the reason why it's important is because each company has a different process of how they do budgeting. They may have a phase 1 budget for approvals, and a phase 2 budget for approvals, and a phase 3 budget for approvals. So you need to ask them when they need this quote for whatever their process is. The next question is just to find out what is their budgeting process and who is going to be the final decision maker. That's important to know because you actually, when you create the quote, you want to create the quote addressed to that decision maker. Even though you may not be talking to them, you want to address it to that decision maker. Find out if this work is for this year's budget or next year's budget. You'll be surprised. You'll put together a quote and they'll say, hey, by the way, I got money left over in 2024. Can you guys go ahead and do that this year? So you want to find out when they're planning on doing this. Find out who they're using currently for painting. Ask if you can leave a business card or a leave behind gift, like some collateral. And then make sure you get that contact information, because that contact information is what you're going to want to put into that Excel spreadsheet or into that CRM. And all you're trying to do is just build this business to business relationship. Next slide. Then it's follow through. So remember, this is a long-term strategy. On that CRM or on that Excel spreadsheet, you're logging every time you've reached out to this person. Then you need to follow up on a quarterly basis. So right then and there, after you've had this conversation with them, get on your phone, go 3 months out, leave yourself a note to make sure you reach back out to them. And it's very easy to reach out. It's, hey Bob with Bob's Bank. I'm Greg with Five Star Paying. We talked 2 or 3 months ago. I was just checking on you, see if you need anything from me. That's it. Not a hard sell. All I'm trying to do is keep myself in front of them because this is a long-term plan. Because what you're trying to do is you're not trying to position yourself to get a paint job like you do on residential. Here, you're trying to become this business's preferred painter. When they pull up their phone and they go to contacts and they type in the word painter, you should be the only one listed there. Once you get in with a business, you're in for good. As long as you're doing a good job, you're being professional, and your crews are taking care of their employees and their customers, they're going to call you over and over and over. Then next year, it's rinse and repeat. Every September, you're reaching out to all these same folks that you gave quotes to and saying, hey, can I help you with your budget this year? Or do you need me to update your numbers? Does that make sense? Can I get some heads up, some amens or anything? Okay. So preach on, preacher. I'll take any of it. So we'll do a recap here. Pick your industries that you can. Hey, I got a thumbs up. Thank you, whoever that was. Pick industries that you know you can succeed with. They're with good industries within your territory or jobs that you know you can actually do a good job on at the level you can, or that you may have contacts with. Please, please, please participate in Allie's fall commercial campaign. This is the start. It's just going to keep growing from there. Collect all your leads and create a contact database, whether that's your Excel spreadsheet or that less annoying CRM or whatever CRM you're using. Keep reaching out to them. Do your warm calls all through this budgeting season. It's a great opportunity. It's a great open door process. Follow up, and then guess what? You rinse and repeat. So this. I hope I shared that strategy good enough with you. This is a strategy that several other service industries like us have been doing. It's very heavily used in the heat and air industry. So I highly recommend you guys do that. Any questions? Any questions?
Correct. Scott asked a question in the Q&A section. He said for the portfolios, he said, are you talking about an actual leave behind portfolio type book with pictures and some sort of presentation tool, or electronic? If electronic, is there some sort of example or template available?
That's a good question, Scott. So let me go back. With our national marketing, we have created a commercial division logo, and we'll present that to you guys at reunion. Also, that goes along with that. They are creating a whole bunch of commercial collateral by industry. That's going to be some good. That's going to be some good leave behind, Scott. But the portfolio I'm talking about is a book that you carry with you. It's why you're talking to them and presenting to them and talking to and trying to share your business and what your business stands for with them and what you can do. You're handing them a book just to look through. So it's not something you're going to leave behind. There is electronic tools that we can use. The struggle I always had is I'm standing across a decision maker and I'm asking them to log on to something, or I'm putting my phone up to their face. It just seemed to be less obtrusive to just show them a portfolio. It's like a picture book your grandma used to have, right? That's what I'm talking about. That way they're looking through it as you're talking to them. I hope that answered your question. Anybody else? Yes, Tim.
Hey, so this isn't directly related to what you kind of went over. I was kind of hoping you give us more insight on kind of future plans and some timelines on stuff with your position. So I know one thing that was asked about from the FAC and whatnot was someone in your position creating some national relationships and doing some of that cold calling and stuff for that. What's the timeline looking like that for us to where it gets farmed out to people in the system?
Yeah, well, we're trying out two things on that one, Tim. One is right now we're already getting some leads that are coming in through a third party, so it's a lead generator on the commercial side. Secondly, We have in Georgia, we got two of our owners that are currently testing out Construct Connect and to see if that could be a lead generator. The ideas on that, Tim, is we would have franchise owners the ability that at a reduced price to be able to buy this lead generator themselves. Secondly, we're budgeting, and hopefully all this gets approved. We're budgeting to have an in-house nationwide access to Construct Connect, where we will then be looking for jobs and passing those down to owners. So all that it will be happening early 2025. Cindy?
Isn't Construct Connect primarily new construction though?
Now, there's also, depending on how you query it and depending on how you look for it, there's also a lot of repaints into that. And then, third is we're going to be heavily involved as a matter of fact, I'm going to a couple of conferences at the end of this year and early next year. One of them is going to be concentrating on multifamily and apartment complexes where we can get in with some of those folks. And then the other one is commercial, not developers, it's more commercial property management. So like the CRBM, folks like that, we're trying to get into those guys. Right now, we found several folks. I had a phone call this morning with an individual that runs all the facilities for all the JCPenney's across the US. We missed their budgeting season. Their budgeting season runs weird. It runs in March because so many of their stores are up north, and so they got to deal with weather. But next year, March, they're going to be reaching out to us for work on all their different JCPenney's. So it's coming. It's coming. One of the biggest challenges we got right now, Tim, is getting several of our owners trained so that we have a larger pool of owners that can do the work, and that's currently in process.
Greg, I got a question. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I get 2 to 3 requests for quotes each week from, I guess it's Construct Connect and other, contractors that are looking to hire out the painting. And we get a chance to click on the blueprints, and I'm not good at that. And I'm wondering, there's a guy in my BNI group that is a GC, and he said that he can look at them, but he just never has the time to. So is that something that we could get in and then, have a corporate resource to send them to?
Yeah, I got actually 2 answers for you on that one, John. So after this call, if you want to reach out to me, I have about 3 companies. They're called takeoff vendors that they will actually take these drawings and they will present back to you the results of them. How many square foot, how many doors, how many jams, and they also, based upon your zip code, have average pricing. And so they'll actually put this together for you. So if you reach out to me, I'll provide you who they are. That's first part. Second part is with that license that we're getting for Construct Connect next year, there also will be a piece of software that comes along with it that the owners that decide to do this will be able to do their own takeoffs themselves.
Okay. Yeah, Scott Specker had recommended somebody, and I tried him, but I didn't get the data in the format that we needed for core. And so I went back and said, hey, can you do this? And they pretty much said no. So
yeah, I got 2 or 3 options, right? None of these, now let me be clear on this. None of these are corporate options. These are just takeoff providers that several other owners are using. Okay. And so I can provide you that information, and these other owners have had good luck with it. And so I can pass that on to you.
That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, you bet. So just reach out to me after this. Yeah, Josh.
I'm gonna dash a little bit of John's last comment though, because you didn't say it, and I think it needs to be said. Those blind requests that you get, is not the ones you want to do what you just said, because you will spend thousands of dollars and get absolutely nothing from that. When you don't have a relationship with the person sending you the bid, they are just sending it to anyone and everyone that's readily available with the Construction Connect contact info. and all they're doing is getting low bid pricing. And
Yeah,
if
it's
you
true.
land that job, it's because you messed up. And each of those plans, I'm just going to tell you, each of those plans are going to cost you about $200 to $500, depending on how big the job is. You're going to be spending that just to complete an estimate for somebody that you don't know. And I'm telling you, the only way you're going to land that is if you massively misbid it. Otherwise, those people are great once you have the relationship first and then get a set of blueprints that you need help doing a takeoff on. But I'm telling you, I'm going to put a word of caution out there to anyone on this call. We all get 3 to 5 of those a day or a week. Ignore them. I'm going to strongly encourage you to ignore all of those unless it's from somebody you know, because they're not good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of truth to what Josh just said. We do need to be careful. Greg, can you just elaborate a little more on that takeoff software that you said we're going to be acquiring next year sometime?
Yeah, it's called Plan Swift. It's a software that's tied to Construct Connect. You literally can download the blueprints, and you can, using this software, can measure out exactly how many square foot of wall space there is, height of ceilings, how many doors, how many jams. You can actually highlight, type in the word paint, and everywhere within those drawings that the word paint's at, it's going to pop up so you can read it. And then you will have to use your average pricing to figure out how you want to calculate it, but it will give you the ability to do the takeoffs yourself.
Okay, thanks.
And it's a national, it's one of the national software providers out there. Yeah, Jeff. Hey, Jeff Hawkins, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Greg, thanks for sharing those tactics on the next year's budgeting. That's great. At the same time, we're also in year-end season, and year-end season can even be more productive, especially around here, state government, local government, county governments, lots of the facilities managers that you've just mentioned are working hard to spend this year's money. And it is a phenomenal opportunity to get your foot in the door and begin to start establishing those relationships before this year's budgeting cycle for next year's spend.
That's a really good point, Jeff. There's been several times that I've reached out to someone, a business, and said, "Can I help you with next year's budget?" And they said, "Hey, guess what? I got money left over this year. I need to spend it."
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, you never know what can come out of that. So thank you for that input. All right, I think if that's it, we'll wrap this up. Everyone, I'm so sorry that it took us 3 tries to get to this, but I appreciate you guys being patient with us. If you guys have any questions on the strategy or any questions for Allie, please let us know, and let's cross our fingers because I really think this is going to be successful. So you guys take care of yourselves, and bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day, everyone. Thanks, Greg.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks, Greg. Thanks, Allie.
Thanks, Ellie.